UFOs, ghosts, ancient civilizations, the supernatural. We may never know the truth about what's really going on, but it sure is fun to speculate.
This is Factor Theory Live with your host, Stephen Crawford. Welcome to Factor Theory Live. I'm Steve Crawford. It is 10:02, December 13th, 2020. I am here with two people who I love and respect a lot. I've been following their videos and their chats for years. And so let's just get down to it. Laura Eisenhower and Dan Willis, how are the two of you doing tonight?
Hey, guys. I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Hey, good to be with you, Laura, again, and Stephen. Boogie Woogie music you're playing there.
So, Laura, you've been doing a buttload of videos lately. I wanted to ask you, who is your favorite person so far, or if top three even, that you've gotten the chance to talk to on your shows?
Well, definitely Dan. And, Marisa, who I just recently interviewed, I have to say, we formed a great friendship. I've never interviewed her before. So I just have to call that out because, it's one of my most recent, and it feels, like kind of favorite beyond just the interview, which I thought was a great interview. I love John D'Souza. We're going to be doing an event soon, and Michael Sala. The list is too long. I wouldn't know how to really answer that. But as far as the latest stuff, I've been doing a lot of roundtables with like Magenta Pixie, who I really love and adore. And it just really seems like what I really like is that the connections and the friendships and the collaborations that really mean the most to me are the ones that are presenting themselves, and the things that weren't really where it was at, that I could sense something wasn't right about, have fallen away, or I've consciously made sure that they fell away and have formed a big boundary to, and I'm so glad that those things aren't in my life, and I won't name names, but...
Right. How about you, Dan? What have you been up to as of late?
Oh, just taking a break from it all. I got myself set up on all the alternative platforms, but it's like a wide open desert out there sometimes. Just watching what's happening. This executive order that Trump did back in September of 2018 that would basically the mainstream media and all the big tech censorship that's going on. This executive order was against foreign interference that's using propaganda and disinformation. When I went to Washington, I saw what the media did with, way back 20 years ago. And I thought, my God, how could the media ever be broken down? The six corporations and the hundreds of outlets that they have. How could this ever be taken down? And you know what? I think that executive order is the legal right to take down any media information source that is purposely deceiving the American public.
Right. To me, it's looking like all the I've been staying away from it because I find it very depressing, especially if you're getting most of your sources are from these people. The people around me are getting everything from mainstream news, and they refuse to look at the Smith-Mundt Act. And ever since I looked at that, I just can't believe a single thing that comes. I find it really hard to watch anything when it comes to that unless it directly affects me. Now, I know that's a pretty shitty outlook, but you guys both know me. I'm a pretty depressed guy. And this show was supposed to be originally about the ghosts and UFOs and all the metaphysical and all the fun things we used to talk about when I first got in touch with the two of you. But to me, I'm wondering, what do you guys think everyone's going to talk about if and when this pandemic finally does, like lockdown goes away, if things go back to normal? Dan?
the whole planet's been technologically hijacked. We can do away with pharmaceutical companies. We can release these technologies that are so far advanced. You got two different sides. You've got one side that wants to radically reduce the population down to a small slave force. And then you have the other side that truth, justice, and American way, and
and they seem to be getting called racist at every turn. the Patriots, that is.
Yeah. We're right on the pivotal point of the whole UFO issue is interesting. Yeah, and it's all tied together and intimately involved in this whole thing. That's how I initially got involved, because I was trying to figure out why the media is purposely sanitizing this information out from the public. Mm-hmm. And when you dig into the whole thing, you see how it's all is a whole web interwoven with this whole thing. But now we're at, fighting for the future of our entire planet. So, the extraterrestrials, yes, they're here. Yes, they have been reverse engineering this stuff for some time. And now it's just a matter of these two major forces, hopefully the Supreme Court, hopefully another avenue, another pathway to bring this whole thing about. It's, I have faith that, there's an incredible military intelligence that knows the playbook, knows many steps ahead of the time what they're going to be doing. But at the same time, the deep state is, they pull surprises out of their hat. So, it's nail biting time. At the same time,
exactly.
It's
surprises.
Yeah.
Laura, what do you think is waiting in the wings if we get a chance to go back to the way things were before, in any way, shape, or form?
Well, there's so many different levels of perception and different dimensional energies that we're all experiencing. I mean, the whole idea is that we're more holistic, that we experience the fullness of it all, and we're still grounded. But there's a lot of sort of people over here and people over there, and sort of, embodying their fragments or their belief systems. They're not really getting into the core of what this time is about, as far as being able to kind of integrate it all and kind of move beyond the externalization of it. Because as long as we're externalizing everything and giving our power away, the parasites have something to feed on. So if that were to all shut down, I think people are going to feel like more connected to their spiritual abilities, more connected to the magic and power of the elements that surround us. I mean, our DNA, the nucleic acids of our DNA are elemental: earth, air, fire, water, connected to the platonic solids, and the mother energy being back on the planet, anchored as a consciousness energy that is able to guide these timelines forward in a way that it wasn't able to do before, because of cataclysms and, Nephilim reversal grids and dark technologies put in place to make it very difficult to integrate the ether energy that is very purifying. That's back. So if all that stuff is shut down, then people can begin to appreciate that and go through the DNA upgrade. But if all that stuff shuts down and they're still hooked in, though, to maybe the next wave, because, I mean, it's either you divorce the cabal and every cord you might have with it, even in places you don't realize, or you still stay connected in some kind of way. So if that all dies out for whatever reason, then maybe something else comes in that still hooks a person in. So, I mean, this is literally a time where we have to consciously choose to liberate ourselves, even though what we're experiencing around us might not feel liberating. It eventually will catch up with itself, and we'll experience it. But we don't want to buy the next, bait that the fishermen, the cabal, puts out and just nibble on it, because they're not going to, quit. And there's always going to be some spawn that still remains. It's really up to us to purify ourselves so that there's an inhospitable bioterrain for them to be able to hook into. We have to raise that frequency and create those boundaries to the point where there's no entry point anymore. And to me, that's the big lesson right now, or else we'll just continue looping to the next storyline and the next storyline, the next false flag or psychological operation. And I feel like they were testing us a lot with the whole Ebola and these other pandemics, and they realized, oh, they're not really taking it seriously, so we're going to need to really amp up this machine, this mockingbird, where the war machine has become the social engineering game and the divide and conquer and, all the falsities that we see. People got to step away from it. So, whatever about censorship, it's fine. Who wants to be with you anyway? Let's rebuild new world that we want to build and build greater community because it's in our hands. The more we try and change something that is not willing to change or stay with those platforms that do not respect or appreciate us, we're probably going to stay entangled. I like to think, though, I like to still get away with doing posts, but if they deplatform me from these other places, fine. Nobody's going to miss you. You guys are a bunch of freaking... But it's, to keep up with the contacts, that's the only reason. But, it's sort of like if something's falling away, do we have to go into fear? Let's go into that space of, oh, thank God, that never served me anyway. It's like that bad group of friends. You let them go, you move through that uncomfortable corridor, then all of a sudden you find your soul family. So, we just got to keep staying inspired and realizing that, the hardest thing is letting go of attachments and or projecting belief systems onto them that they actually cared about us. They don't, and I think this administration is different. That's why I've showed support for the T man. But, I'm still being very careful about how much I do give to that because I really support the Starseed missions or whatever you want to label it. I mean, to me, that is a priority. Where the planetary body is taking us, this is a cosmic and earthly event, and we're all, switching on these greater potentials, and it's going to starve that system. So if all that falls away, I feel it's time to truly celebrate. But if anybody thinks it's falling away, but they're still entrapped in that system, they're just going to get the next storyline and still loop in it.
Exactly. It makes me think I didn't pay much attention at the time, but at the beginning of this whole thing, after the first 3 weeks of lockdown, I don't know if you guys remember how they were reporting that places that were just so polluted and stuff where the air was getting cleaner and fish that weren't coming, the marine life and wildlife were venturing back into the cities and stuff. And that happened just after a few weeks. And then they seemed to start to let things go back into the air that were going to be more pollutant. I just wonder, how fast could this planet heal itself were we not constantly interfering with it?
It's it can happen so quickly. A shift of perspective can heal cancer. I mean, it's like, look at the things that our relationship with a particular belief system, ancestral pattern, or programming that creates unwellness in the body. I mean, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. It has everything to do with physical health, though. If you look at the astrology, Virgo connects with physical health, and Mercury is the ruler. If we don't have mental health that's connected to higher awareness, our physical body suffers. And that's why they use all these tactics, because they literally can write the script and make us all sick. It's not just this virus floating around. We're way more powerful than any sort of thing that we're breathing in. It's the indoctrination. It's the propaganda. And I know I want to pass this over to Dan, but it would be so rapid. It's like a timeline shift, right? We could be on this low vibrational suffering, illness, or we could just flip the switch and be like, whoa, there I am, when you snap out of depression, it's like, wait a second, I'm starting to feel more gratitude, or I'm starting to engage in activities or putting things in my body that actually uplift me. But there's that space where we feel so broken that it doesn't seem like there's any way out, but there always is the thing.
Dan, what do you think about all of that?
Oh, like ancient Chinese proverb, misfortune bring opportunity. This whole situation, in a way, this is as scary as the outcome could be and drag you into the low fear vibration, type of thing. At the same time, this is a great opportunity where this situation it seemed 10, even 20 years ago, it seemed like insurmountable. But now there seems that there is an opportunity in order to completely transform this planet and, release these technologies. If these technologies would end energy and environmental crisis. We don't need nuclear, oil, and coal, all that stuff. We don't need pharmaceutical corporations anymore. They have an entirely different planet. In fact, people are worried about overpopulation. There's other planets, we can take people to. So,
right.
There's all kinds of, there's an incredible potential right now for complete transformation in the most benevolent way on the entire planet. And so that possibility, it's a very real possibility that exists, because, you look at, Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, who definitely shared a lot of information with him.
Exactly.
And his inaugural speech talking about releasing the technologies of tomorrow and healing the diseases and stuff. And he wrote an executive memorandum that would release these anti-aging, free energy. We've got thousands of inventions that could help this entire planet that have been suppressed ever since the Invention Secrecy Act back in 1951.
Right.
They set all this stuff up so long ago. And our planet's been basically in the stranglehold of this setup. And now, there's the potential for a complete release of that stranglehold, which would be, incredible, because we could have exchanges with other advanced civilizations. And, if we get to a point where it's kind of interesting, the New York Post just came out with the head Israeli, guy with in the Space Department talking about, the bases on Mars where they're working alongside with extraterrestrials. This is coming out, this information, but you have to wonder how much is a distraction and how much is part of a planned slow leak.
Exactly. But part of the thing that's really messing with my brain, and I think that's why I even dabbled into flat Earth, is because I can't wrap my brain around Earth is a pressurized system. We know this. They say it's a closed system, but it's a pressurized system. That's probably what they mean by closed. And space is a vacuum. And a vacuum and a pressurized system cannot exist side by side. We've got the training of NASA people underwater. We've got the Navy, allegedly, wasn't it Gary McKinnon, who, when he found that information, it was alleged to be like a Navy ship, but in the space, and I'm just wondering what more are they hiding from us? Because now there's these new theories. It was Michio Kaku was talking about had something to do with the 11 dimensions, and one of them was like a membranous dimension liquid, and we were like in a bubble, one of many bubbles in this dimension, and I can't. Do you guys have any? You probably don't, Dan. You're right about space. I think there is so much that is right what they're telling us about space, but I think we're really being held back. A lot of it is being held back. Something key like that like fluidic space. The pressure. Do you have anything to say about that, or you just think I'm nuts?
Well, it.
It's say I'm nuts if
when
you
you're born. When you're born into this world, you're indoctrinated by everything you see on television, what your parents know, what your interaction with school, what you learn in school, and that's your sort of matrix around you of your agreed upon reality, and they have been effective keeping it secret. These a completely different world. It was like Robert F. Kennedy said before he was assassinated. He made a quote. He said, "I found out something I never knew. I found out that my world was not the real world." In other words, this entire other world that has been pretty effectively kept from the masses on this planet secret. But it has technologically leaped many decades ahead of the rest of the world.
Things that we've been made ignorant of, like even I was watching Harry Potter with my daughter, and I'm just thinking, how far-fetched is it really that magic exists in some way or form, and it's just a thin veil between that dimension and this dimension because of the things that we've been, like you said, indoctrinated to believe and disbelieve. We're not capable of seeing it, and that's why some people can. We call them psychics. Other people who didn't realize they're psychics went nuts and killed themselves. It's just, well, I get lost because it's so huge. To me, the potential reality is just so mind-bending that's being kept back, and I think that's much more interesting than anything a Hollywood movie or TV show could offer the general public. I really wish more people would start to philosophize more and theorize.
Well, Hollywood's been very instrumental in, the occult, the secret societies. They understand that we collectively create reality, and so they seed the subconscious minds of millions through their movies, through their crime dramas, and through their mainstream media news. A good example is, they've created this reality, that Biden is the president-elect and that there's no evidence, and they're you watch this thing and it's false. But the wonderful thing about it is that because there's so many leaks of information, just people with common sense looking at what's going on know that the mainstream media is purposely deceiving the public. And so to me, that's really encouraging, to see that a lot of people are finding out that, that trusted anchor person on the news is actually just giving me BS,
His brother's the governor.
Yeah, they know how to create the reality in which they want to move their agenda toward. And I think, there's a lot of people waking up to realizing that, I'm not going to give my consent to that reality, and that they're being, it's propaganda and disinformation, as they say.
Mm-hmm. And, Laura, what do you think of what's going on now with it seems that people are starting to, even Dems are starting to wake up. They're starting to get a little pissed off with Joe and Camilla. What do you think about what's, I don't even know if you've heard anything that's going derogatory against them yourself. You probably have with everyone you're talking to. Do you think that this is going to hold, everything that's going on with them, and what does that hold for our future?
Well, I mean, it's so hard to talk about without it seeming like, oh, you're a Republican or you're a Trumper, and it's like, no, let's not even go there.
In the middle, Yeah,
it's like I walk in the middle, and I'm just trying to be the observer, and my intention and what I stand strongly by is what is most beneficial for humans as far as having space held on a global level that allows them to step into greater sovereignty and self-accountability in order to, make the changes you need to make to step up to the plate and, do your part, step up to your mission, So I'm kind of looking through that lens. I've never voted. I've always avoided all of it. I'm like, it's both, both sides are owned. And yeah, so this administration is a little bit different, but I won't go into that. But when I see, that side, I I see ideals that people are holding on to that are expiring. Like they're taking those ideals, or they're taking those visions and hopes of well-intentioned people, and they're steering it into this globalism socialist agenda, saying, oh, it's for the environment. But yet that couldn't be further from the truth in many ways. First off, they're not even coming from a spiritual perspective, or they would look into the greater galactic history, and we wouldn't be indoctrinated in our school systems. We'd actually get our true galactic history. We would understand what this planetary body is all about, and we would be given the most amazing food in the cafeterias for our children, and everything would be completely different. And they have all the wealth in the world to create the most amazing upbringing where our children are our guides and we help support them. Instead, it's pharmaceuticals, Ritalin. Oh, if you think outside of the box, you can't sit still, then you're this kind of kid and you're this kind of problem.
Right.
And now they're all being masked. I mean, it's the sickest thing. And then they say they're going to help the environment. No, you're not. You're not addressing climate change. You are a part of the agendas that have the dark technology that have created geoengineering and certain weather events in order to create this artificial Armageddon timeline that is literally putting a lot of people in fear. Mm-hmm. So the whole Biden thing, it's like literally like I can't even look at them without feeling, I wouldn't say nauseous or sick, but it's just like, no, none of it.
Yeah, I know it
feels good. And like the blind eye being turned away from all the evidence, all the stuff around, Hunter Biden is like inexcusable. And it's like, okay, fine, you guys are brainwashed. We're supposed to feel sorry for you. Well, you know what? I grew up watching Scooby-Doo, and I was put in front of the television. I watched The Fall Guy. I watched every stupid commercial, just like, what? And I'm not feeling like I'm being played, and I'm not saying that I have all the answers either. I'm not like in a place of there, but to me, there's no excuse. It's abuse. We're abusing our younger generations. We're separating. They want to separate us more and more from nature. So now I forgot the question because I'm getting all fired up. But
no, that's good because we should be fired up. I used to be fired up.
Racism thing. Go right ahead. It's like the stupid trigger events. It's like these people. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I love your fire because I used to be full of piss and vinegar myself, and I took that black pill for a while, but. Listening to you and Dan, you're right. There are things that are coming back to me that seem to conveniently find their way to the back of my mind, and I forget about little things that have happened. That even just like that with the air and water, how fast that to me that seemed almost supernatural. How quickly it happened, and then it started me thinking about the things that have happened to me. With missing time and the spirits I've taught now, are they really spirits? Or are they people? It starts starting to get me curious again. So I like, wow. So now my mind's racing, wondering, where should we go next with this conversation? How about this? I'll let one of you guys pick. Is there something you would like to get into that you don't think you get a chance to bring up enough? Dan.
I think, God, you just have to wonder, the percentage of the population that, thinks like us three, and I'm sure all your listeners are pretty much on the same page. Don't even bother to, listen to, shows like this, but there's a lot of people that, still it's going to be a hard situation to wrap their mind around when this whole thing, comes around. They've been, creating this false reality for so many decades. And then, even, in 2001, it's like I was still wrapping my head around, all the extraterrestrial stuff that's going on this planet. It just gets to a point where I'm sure Laura can relate, you get exposed to so much information. At a certain point, you start to develop, your own agreed upon reality of what the world is about and what's going on this planet. And you don't have there's many levels, like, layers of an onion going deep into this whole thing. But, you start to form a perception that, yeah, okay, we've got these operations that started going off planet, and I've got situations that are deep underground military bases, huge, massive facilities that have advanced technology, as witnesses have talked about. And, Laura almost got recruited off to Mars.
Right.
And, you have to wonder about the human rights abuse, just like the Nazis were doing in Antarctica with, the corporations are coming in using slave labor, that Nazi mentality, which is kind of along the lines of the Chinese Communist Party, eugenics, and, this whole group seems to be, their ideologies are similar, whether it be the Chinese Communist Party or the Nazis or, whatever. There's a certain mindset that wants to dominate and control and manipulate the world, whereas another mindset that wants to liberate the world and evolve the world, just like when Laura's great-grandfather met with the Nordic extraterrestrials back in 1954, and they wanted to help us with our spiritual development. But we needed to relinquish our nuclear weapons, which they did not want to do. But you can't have technology that outstrips your spiritual development, or else you're going to use it destructively. And we've got U.S. Navy Space Force out there. We got the Air Force Space Force. We've got operations going on Mars, Moon, and who knows where else in the galaxy. While people were watching I Love Lucy in the 50s. It's like,
right.
It's just this bizarre world that we've been born into, and it takes a while to wrap your head around exactly just how bizarre it really is.
It's funny that you bring that up about the things we were watching while they were exploring spaces. They had us so brainwashed back then with things like Leave It to Beaver and stuff. It's just mind-bending to me now. Laura, is there anything that you've touched on, or that one of your guests have even brought up that you were like, oh yeah, that's something that doesn't really get talked enough about?
Oh, and who that might have been, or what that was referring to?
That I was asking you, is there anything that you have been talking about, either yourself or one of your guests even, that you were like, oh yeah, that's a great topic and I don't get to talk enough about it?
Well, there are certain things that I've been talking about for a really long time that I still don't feel is getting the attention that it should be getting, not from the human level, but just from a consciousness level of a person being able to tap into it. So some of the guests that I bring on, speak about such things. And I mean, we're all kind of connecting on some of those things as well. But I would say, we were robbed from our galactic history. We came in with amnesia and all these different things that have created this false sense of human, when human is so much more than we can imagine, and there's so much more potential. The way that they've steered history into a false history and science into fake science has literally indoctrinated the doctors and the science professionals and those that are in these positions in society to not really want to explore further than what they were taught and what they excelled at and what they got degrees for and rewarded for. And then you got your few like Dr. Shiva and even Alfred Lambermont Weber, and both of you guys, you know how to, I mean, I don't fully know like your full biographies, but I do enough. It's like, there's some people that are able to walk in that world and not be indoctrinated. They gain the skills, but they see a much broader, picture, to the point where you could teach the teacher or the professor that's trying to tell you, no, this is how you should do it. And I failed all these tests, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I got, like everybody's saying I have a learning disability. And it's like, this is bullshit. Sorry. I'm seeing like something way bigger, and I'm like an outcast now, or I'm just a failure. And I'm like, no, not going to go there. So I think things like, as of 2010, the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Fiacus. So that's kind of a big deal. But because astrology has been targeted as a pseudoscience, people are like, oh, that's woo-woo. Who cares about that? It's like, no, when we integrate that into medicine and we look at medical astrology and we look at how it corresponds or relates to our DNA and how we're all working to share codes and different energies to rebuild the architecture of our DNA in order to heal the planetary grid network that was put in reversals and completely obliterated in certain levels of it, so that we walk around with this junk DNA, which science supports. Oh, yeah, that's just garbage. You don't want to look over there. It's like, well, that's everything. That is what we need to remember, because we're on the cusp of them wanting to shoot us up and enslave us further, when we could have a breakthrough that says, wait a second, I've got these greater healing abilities. And, And when I say spiritual, I don't mean belief system spiritual. I mean the willingness to say, I'm going to upgrade because I have chosen integrity, compassion, and wisdom, and really looking through the lens of self as an observer, able to see through the lies and the bullshit, because one is connected to their own truth frequency, which doesn't have a judgment on the dark night of the soul or the shadow stuff that comes up. It's willing to move through it. So a lot of the new age bullshit is like, oh, it's all light and love and we don't want to go there. It's like, just shut up already. You know what? We all need to just pay attention to what matters to us, because oneness is diversity and harmony. We don't all have to get to the same goal in the same way. But if we can, hold hands and lock arms and respect each other's approach, and instead of unsolicited advice, just be there as a resource. If somebody says, look, I could really use your help. And
cheer
maybe,
each other on.
Every once in a while, some unsolicited advice is not a terrible thing. But I think we're really missing the purpose here, is that we're rebuilding our DNA architecture. And I don't feel those conversations are going on enough. So just to answer that, but I was going to say something else, but I think that's probably good for right now.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with all that. And I think we had talked before, like even things like home ec for kids in school and connecting with nature, growing your own food and things like it's not taught anymore, and it really should be. Even there were, where is it? Switzerland. There was some other place that when kids start school, they teach them meditation right away. Like, how amazing is that? You got a way better chance of your child growing up to be a productive member of society and just a genuinely great person if we were to do something like that, rather than them just running around and maybe becoming felons when they get older. There is a clip I want to play. I'm not going to play the entire thing, but from that show, Unidentified, it's the To the Stars Academy. This is a clip from it where the one gentleman is talking about his sighting and describes what he saw, and it is exactly what I've been seeing and is on my YouTube channel, but my cell phone doesn't do it justice. But this is, I kind of, 3 drops of pee came out when I saw this clip, so I wanted to share it. I think it would probably be a good idea if I shared my video and sound. There we go. Okay, minimize this, and here we go.
Hey Ryan, how are you? I'm Lou. Nice to meet you. Lou.
It's taken weeks of negotiating to convince the pilot to talk.
Appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Elizondo hopes having one of the most respected pilots in the Navy with him will put the younger pilot at ease.
2v1, huh? It's not a fair fight.
Lieutenant Ryan Graves has spent a decade training Navy pilots and flying bombing missions. As a combat section lead, he twice deployed to the Middle East and holds a degree in aerospace engineering.
Go ahead, let's start from the beginning.
Well, simply put, I don't really know where the beginning is.
In the summer of 2014, Lieutenant Graves was based out of Naval Air Station Oceana in Virginia Beach. Lieutenant Graves says his squadron, the Red Rippers, was running training exercises up and down the East Coast when they started to pick up mysterious radar tracks.
We didn't really think a lot of them other than the fact that maybe they were just a part of the radar itself, not necessarily an actual physical object.
Is there any difference between the aircraft you were flying in 2015 versus what he was flying in 2014?
We had upgraded electronics, radar systems. It's a generational difference. It's a big deal.
Is it? Okay.
Huge increase in capability.
Okay.
The pilots wondered if their new radar system was malfunctioning until they saw one of the unidentified objects up close.
Walk me through that moment. Were you there or was it one of your colleagues?
It was one of my colleagues, so I didn't hear about it until they landed.
Did he give you size, color, texture?
It was basically a cube with inside of sphere where the points of the cube were touching outside of the sphere.
We've got now two different things. You guys got cubes with balls. Around the West Coast, we got flying Tic Tacs.
You will sometimes get phantom tracks where it's seeing something that's not there. That's what we thought they were 100% of the time until we would see them physically, gain tally of them with our eyeballs. It's not that I'm seeing a bright physical object. I'm literally just seeing a flash shine out there. And wherever we were, they were there. So that could mean two things. That could mean they were already there, or they were following the strike group.
By 2015, Lieutenant Graves claims his pilots were encountering bizarre craft almost every time they flew.
You know, it's one thing if one person sees one of these objects, they're like, okay, that's crazy. When you go out there every day, and you see them, and your brothers and sisters and other squadrons are seeing them, and, you know, it's like, okay, well, this is probably some type of maybe drone thing or something that they're testing out. It wasn't until someone actually saw one go in between two aircraft at a close range, probably within 150 feet, that it was starting to get worrisome.
Okay, so yeah, as you heard him say, he saw like a sphere with a cube in it, and the points of the cube were touching the. That's exactly what I saw. And if you ever do check out my channel, there's a video, and it's the same year because my daughter was 6 at the time that this happened. It was the summer. It was the exact thing he's talking about, only I saw mine at night. So what do you guys think about that show and the things? I know what Dan thinks, but some of the people may not know about the things that the To the Stars Academy had been bringing out. Dan or Laura?
Oh, you have any thoughts, Laura?
I didn't quite pick up on the whole question. Just if you want to say it again, you don't want to take.
Have you had a chance to look at any of the things that To the Stars Academy, that show Unidentified, had brought out? Especially, I'm sure you saw the Tic Tac. And what do you think about those things going on? What do you think they may be from your perspective? Because you've got way more knowledge about like just about everything you're talking about where we come from. Where do you think these things come from that he described?
You know what? I have not been able to check it out. I'm not probably as on top of it currently as I should be. I mean, the thing is, to me, everything exists. That's why I'm not the kind of person that says, oh, right. Yeah, that's all lies. But at the same time, there are definitely people that are creating false narratives as far as the intention behind certain things. It's similar to certain religions or certain things where it gets close enough to the truth and then it distorts it just enough to throw people off. Because they know that we're unfolding into a great awakening and we're going to get these intuitive hits about things, they're going to take those cycles or those developmental phases of our existence and speak to that, but not necessarily in the most honest way. Well, we haven't been dealing with a society that has brought about disclosure or any kind of truth at all. So then it's just like, kind of groundbreaking and sort of shocking and like, where is this all coming from? But when we look at like, blue beam technology, even the Phoenix lights, not all of that was authentic. And that literally changed the way that people felt about our reality. And they were like, it's almost like waiting for true love and you want it so bad. And then you realize, oh, that's just another narcissistic asshole. What am I doing? Right. It's like, we need to understand that there's going to be possibilities coming from both sides, the authentic and the not authentic. And that's all I'm going to say because I need to, and I know you just played it and it wasn't coming up on my screen. And so I can't really give a good answer, but I guess the best thing that I can say, and not to ramble on too much, you're already doing that, Laura, is, We got.
I was just hoping maybe one of the people you've interviewed is mentioned.
Yeah, we got to watch out for the false disclosures and the holographic technologies that, to me, when something is real, it's like, I don't know. I don't really trust most things. Doesn't mean I trust something on a much larger picture, but a lot of the UFO ET stuff, I don't fully trust.
Yeah, because they have blue beam.
Yeah, I mean, they have blue beam, right? And the more authentic version of it, they tend to try and mind wipe people from, and then they start to bring in the MyLab thing or the military abductions. So it's kind of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's good reason not to trust. It's you should question everything. Especially when the pharmaceutical companies are actually providing the books for the doctors, in their schooling and stuff like that. What we were talking about earlier. But as far as this whole thing connected, the red flag should go up when it keeps coming out from the New York Times, which is one of the central controlled of the Bilderberg Council of Foreign Relations, the main control outlets that they put this information out. And you follow the line and notice how they get all this support and all this media coverage. And then the History Channel comes out and does the unidentified series. And then all throughout the dialogue, through the entire thing, which I've watched, is nothing but the, quote, alien threat, the alien threat, and these people, and then they find out that, the Tic Tac that they originally came out with the 2004 Nimitz incident, was actually a U.S. Air Force secret space program that was built over in Lockheed Palmdale facility that they were testing out. Of course, none of that ever hit the media because it destroys the narrative that they were creating with this, this threat scenario.
Do you think that
you have these?
Do you who I'm talking about? The guy who's supposed to be, he came out, he was the governor, the government insider. He was the star of that show too. And he's the one who does all the interviewing of people. You think, because he was in a position, he should have known about that it was just, what you had just said, that it was a test of something really cool they had just came up with.
Oh, you're talking about Luis Elizondo?
That's it. That's his name, yes.
Yeah. Where Harry Reid and Bigelow are all tied in together with the To the Stars Academy, and you've got...
Because it makes you wonder...
You got this whole group that's coordinating together with the media to... put out this perception. They're not going to acknowledge information that's contrary to the narrative that they're attempting to push. And there's a whole lot more to this whole thing. You've got Dr. Eric Davis, who has come out. I think Good released there was some transversal wormholes and warp drives that he published. He's pretty much of an insider, and he was the one that met with Admiral Wilson, who was furious because he was denied access to the the reverse engineering operations that they were doing with his constitutional authority. Anyway, he's going around. He came out in the New York Times and saying, we haven't made much progress, which is a total lie. Right. And so what they're trying to do is put this perception that the United States, we've been trying to reverse engineer these things, but, I met with Bob Lazar back in 1993 when he first came public outside Area 51. I recorded him. Right. And, and he was frustrated because they wouldn't allow other scientists because it's so highly compartmentalized. But they were trying to reverse engineer the Zeta Reticuli craft, which was using, exotic technologies that, they got a basic idea of the principles of the operations, how it uses these gravity wave amplifiers. But in other parts, just as Mark McCandish, one of the witnesses that joined me back in 2001, they have the alien reproduction vehicles that they, built back in, they had anti-gravity developed back in October of 1954 in the United States with these faster-than-light craft. So, so that you've got these lies going on, and these lies are in support of a narrative. And so they're trying to steer the population's perceptions on these things in particular ways in order to fill particular agendas. So, it's important to question everything and not just, say, oh, how exciting. Well, we're going to have UFO disclosure. They could be spinning it in such a way that use it against you, just like the medical system is all set up, for profit, like the doctor that was examining my mother had cancer. He said, you're going to die if I take her across the border. I took her across the border, did the Gerson therapy, totally nutritional therapy, which uses the body's own intelligence to heal itself. My mother came back. He found not a trace of cancer. He's almost disappointed in his tone. She lived to be 91 years old, cancer-free. Mm-hmm. But these type of alternative to the mainstream allopathic medicine that uses these pharmaceuticals that treat a lot of the symptoms with all these side effects, where the core, like Laura was saying, our DNA, and there's this intelligence within the body, our consciousness, can heal ourselves. And in the secret space programs, I've got these med beds that, since the whole universe is plasmatic, everything is basically an oscillatory geometry that creates all matter. And so taking the DNA frequency, they can heal any disease, they can reverse age you, even wipe your memories if they need to. But, they've got technologies that we don't need this corrupt, my great-grandfather was a president of the Homeopathic Medical Society, so I probably have that bug in my DNA that makes me really pissed off at what the hospitals are doing, and the hospitals why are the hospitals getting all this incentive money for labeling everything? The death toll is actually gone down this year from the years previous.
Exactly.
But they label the cases and the deaths erroneously because of the tests are done so that everybody looks like they're testing positive, but the hospitals get like this huge amounts of money for going along with this whole
something
scam.
Like between 30 and 38,000. Yeah.
Right. 38,000. That's pretty big incentive for the hospitals, and that's corrupt.
Oh, big time! Yeah, like how do you expect to keep it's nurses and orderlies that are coming out and telling the truth that their hospitals are empty. They're giving the hospital guys, they're giving the board's getting their money, but they're not doing a trickle down to the people they really need to be keeping quiet, and it's coming out. Same with at the hospital here. I went to the hospital here in my city. I couldn't get too close. There was, I think, maybe half the lot was full, but I think that was mainly people who worked there. Because I don't know what they're like in the States, but here in Canada, we've got restaurants and stuff inside our flipping hospitals. They sell out that bad. They're leasing places out to like Tim Hortons and Mr. Sub, and it's insane. Okay, we've got 2 minutes.
Did you see the head guy up in Canada? I mean, it was one of the head medical guys said that this is the biggest perpetrated hoax on humanity, and that the masks are completely useless. Did you see? He was the inventor of the test.
What?
That could be who you're talking about. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Oh my God, yeah. Dr. Shiva just blew it out of the water on X-22. But anyway,
right.
Yeah. 4 degrees from MIT, including a PhD in biological engineering. He's been studying the immune system since he was 14 years old, and he's literally just saying what you just said. That's why I thought you were talking about him. But Anyway.
No,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
Dr.
I
Shiva.
hadn't heard.
He's fantastic. Yeah, but no, this was another doctor. He was the inventor of the COVID test, and he was the inventor of the token. He says it's totally worthless. It's good. And even the CDC has admitted it. But the mainstream media is like a Hollywood movie production.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the beds are overflowing, or it's a crisis. It's spearing. Oh my God, it's going to turn into absolute hell. They're creating all this movie
They are
on
all
mainstream media.
actors. They
they
have
are.
their directors and producers and their editors and their audio guy. Yes, it is all acting. And Obama was the one in 2013 who expanded the powers of it for the Smith-Mundt Act. And who was... Oh, okay, we've got the break coming up. We'll see us on the other side.